All right, welcome to the explainer. So, have you ever felt this? You've got more choices than ever before, and yet you're totally stuck. It's this weird modern problem called analysis paralysis. Well, today we're going to look for a solution, not in some new app, but in a philosophy that's, get this, 2,500 years old. We're going to explore the Taoist way to get from total confusion to real clarity. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the paralysis of choice. Then we'll get into the core ideas, Yin, Yang, and this concept of Wu Wei. After that, we'll get super practical with a Taoist decision algorithm, if you will. We'll even see how modern science actually backs this stuff up. And then we'll wrap it all up to give you your own path to clarity. Sound good? Let's go. All right, first up, the paralysis of choice. We're sold this idea that more options mean more freedom. But does it really work out that way? For most of us, it just leads to feeling completely and utterly stuck. Yeah, this is it. Welcome to the age of analysis paralysis. It's that feeling of just drowning in a sea of options. And what's our first instinct? We try to think our way out of it, right? We make lists, we research. But what if that's the problem? What if all that overanalyzing is actually the cage, not the key to get out? And this slide, this just nails the difference. So you've got the modern view on one side. Freedom means more options. We try to force a decision, to use sheer brain power to find the right answer. It's like trying to choose which way the wind should blow. It's pointless, right? But then you have the Taoist view. It says, hold on, real freedom isn't about having more choices. It's about finding the natural flow. It's about listening, sensing what's aligned, and then moving with the wind. Okay, so where does all this paralysis even come from? Well, according to Taoism, it all comes down to the balance or imbalance between two really fundamental forces. And those forces are, of course, yin and yang. Now, think of it like a dance. Yang is the active part. It's the doing, the hustle, the forward motion. But then there's yin. That's the receptive part, the stillness, the quiet, the space you need for things to settle. And the real secret, the key to wisdom, isn't picking one over the other. It's about finding that perfect balance. But here's the problem, right? Our world is completely addicted to yang. It's all go, 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 be productive, optimize everything. We've totally forgotten about the power of yin. But the thing is, real decisions, the big ones, they're born in that quiet yin space. If we're always doing, we never give ourselves the chance to really see. And this quote from the Hunanzi just sums it up perfectly. The wise decide without hurry and act without confusion. Now, this doesn't mean be slow, not at all. It means taking the time to find that inner quiet first, so that when the time to act comes, you can move with total confidence, without that second guessing. It's all about getting that balance back. So, if the problem is forcing things and struggling all the time, what's the antidote? Well, that brings us to a really core Taoist idea called Wu Wei. Now, Wu Wei often gets translated as doing nothing, but that's not quite right. It's more like effortless action or acting without forcing it. Think of it like a surfer. A surfer doesn't create the wave. They wait for the right one and then ride its energy. That's Wu Wei. It's about moving with the grain of things instead of constantly trying to fight the current. And this is so important because this is not about procrastination. When Lao Tzu says the sage remains unmoved until movement arises, he's not talking about being lazy. He's talking about patience. It's about waiting for that sweet spot where your gut feeling and what's happening around you just click. You recognize the perfect moment, and then the action just flows. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it? Well, let's get practical. You can think of this next part as a kind of Taoist algorithm for making decisions. All right, here we go. 5 steps. Step 1, just observe. Look at the situation like you're watching clouds drift by, without judging. Step 2, empty the mind. This is your yin moment. Silence that endless debate in your head. Go for a walk. Just breathe. Step 3, align with the pattern. Once things are quiet, you'll start to sense the path of least resistance, the natural way forward. Step 4, act. This is the yang part. Once you feel that alignment, move. No hesitation. And finally, step 5, reflect. Look back on how it went, not with regret, but with gratitude. You're basically training your intuition for next time. And here's where things get really, really cool. It turns out modern science is actually starting to prove what these ancient masters knew all along. This isn't just some mystical philosophy, it's actually about how our brains are wired. Yeah, seriously. The Tao isn't mystical, it's just good old neurological efficiency. What we're talking about here is basically a super effective way to manage your brain's resources and stop yourself from burning out. So check this out. Scientists have found that when you have way too many choices, the logical part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, it literally gets stressed out and starts to shut down. Sound familiar? But that yin phase we talked about, taking a walk, just being quiet, that flips a switch. It activates something called the default mode network. Think of it as your brain's creative, big picture thinking mode. And the result? The stress goes down, clarity comes back, and your intelligence can actually flow again. And the philosopher Alan Watts just nailed it when he said this: when you stop resisting, intelligence flows through you. Indecision is a kind of resistance, right? It's you fighting yourself, fighting the situation. When you just stop, when you allow for that stillness, you're not giving up. You're actually getting out of your own way so your brain can do its best work. Okay, let's bring this all home. We've gone from the problem, that feeling of being stuck, all the way to a pretty elegant solution. Let's put it all together. So here it is, your cheat sheet for clarity. The problem, analysis paralysis, that's just way too much yang energy. The principle that saves you, Wu Wei, or effortless action. How do you do it? With that 5-step algorithm. And what's the payoff? You get to a state of clarity and flow. A perfect yin-yang balance where decisions don't feel like a struggle anymore. And so, I'll leave you with this question to think about. What outcome is already trying to unfold in your life if you just became quiet enough to hear it? Because ultimately, that's what this is all about. Clarity isn't something you have to wrestle into existence. It's something you discover. And most of the time, the answer is already right there, just waiting for you to get quiet enough to finally hear it.
Like and subscribe for timeless wisdom.